Mauricio Pochettino is Chelsea manager, and therefore any gripes that I may have had, any doubts that I may have had, must be simply parked, put to one side and forgotten. I now have to pledge nothing but unilateral, aggressive support to Mr. Pochettino, and I will most certainly do that. Did I think he was the right man for the job? Possibly not. Did I desperately want him to be Chelsea manager? Possibly not. Was I slightly clouded by his Tottenham past? Most certainly was. But all of that now has to be put to one side, and we have to embrace Poch, as I now must call him, at Stamford Bridge. So, Poch is most certainly going to have his work cut out. We have had a totally wasted season, and as I confirmed on a previous video on this channel, Chelsea had our worst ever season. We have never had a season worse than the one that we have just had to endure. So, Pochettino really is going to have to get it right quickly. And when you think about the resource at Chelsea, I think a lot of it does fit the paradigm of Mauricio Pochettino. A lot of the things that we know Pochettino is good at, a lot of the things that we associate him with will be available for him at Chelsea. Of course, there are going to have to be some tweaks. Of course, Chelsea are going to have to be malleable and work to the will of Mauricio Pochettino. But generally speaking, Pochettino is a manager that has an element of class to him. He's a manager who works with and develops young players. He's a manager who has experienced success. You know, I am very scathing and often quite snide about Pochettino's level of success, but he did go to France and win Ligue 1. He's worked in leading European competitions. You know, he has been to a Champions League final. You know, he's a manager who has a reputation for diligence, who sets high standards, and that is something that Chelsea are so lacking at the moment. If you listen to Frank Lampard speak this week, all he was talking about is the drop in standards. All he was talking about is how this crop of players have no standards, and Pochettino will put that right immediately. He's a manager who knows the English league. This is something that is so important. You know, even when I was making a strong case for Luis Enrique being Chelsea's next manager, I was slightly concerned that there was no track record, there was no data, there was no experience of working in the Premier League. That is not the case with Mauricio Pochettino, and the fact that he has already done it here fills me with an element of confidence. He also forms a strong bond with the players and with the fans. You know, I've been to Tottenham many times and I've been serenaded painfully by his magic, you know. We've heard the Tottenham fans singing it. The Tottenham fans loved him, the face on the flag and all of that. That's so important. Having an affinity with the player, forming a bond with the player, the manager, the fans, making sure that you're all part of the same thing, pulling in the same direction and singing off the same hymn sheet is something that Chelsea are so in need of, particularly as we have issues in the boardroom. So Pochettino working with the fans, making sure that everybody is on the same side could be crucial to any dreams that we have of success. Also, I touched on it there. He has worked with tricky owners in the past. So he has a track record of achieving things, even when he's been dealing with the likes of Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy. So we now have to think about how Chelsea are going to play. How is Pochettino going to want his Chelsea team to line up? And when you think about the players at his disposal at Chelsea, who's he going to like? Who's he going to embrace? Who's he going to forge an affinity with? Who's going to become his personality on the pitch? And equally, who's he going to give the tic-tac? It's tricky. It really is. So when you think about Pochettino, you know what he's like. You know the way that he wants to play. He is a disciple of Marcelo Bielsa. And if you know anything about Marcelo Bielsa, you know how Pochettino is going to want to play football. We know that he's going to be incredibly aggressive, incredibly intense when we don't have the ball. And when we do have the ball, our width is going to be provided by our fullbacks. Now, this bodes really well. Obviously, at Tottenham, it was Danny Rose and Kyle Walker. And now at Chelsea, I think he has two of the best fullbacks in world football. So that does bode well. Where there is a slight issue is that in order to accommodate your fullbacks pushing up the pitch so far, he likes to split his centre-halves. And now at Tottenham, the centre-halves would split and often Eric Dyer would drop in, so they kind of go to three at the back. At Chelsea, I just don't know who that player is going to be. Chelsea don't seem to have that player. You know, you could maybe suggest that Enzo Fernandez could do that, but I feel like if you were asking Enzo Fernandez to drop so deep, that you would be losing a lot of what he can contribute further up the pitch. Obviously, on occasions, Pochettino has played three at the back, but I don't think you can do that anymore. I think the football has moved on from the days of Antonio Conte and Pochettino playing five at the back, and I think he'll play four. So obviously, our fullbacks are who our fullbacks are. And then I think our two central defenders will be Fofana on one side and Badiashile on the other. Now, as a defence, it's good. It's compact. It's quick. It has an awful lot to offer. My worry is, to play this system, we push our fullbacks on. Who on earth is going to drop in from the middle? Maybe we're going to have to sign someone. But this could be a real issue for Chelsea because of the amount of players in our squad at the moment. It doesn't really work. And basically, we're going to have to operate on a one-in, one-out policy. So we can't really sign a player until somebody leaves. God, we really have stacked the deck against Pochettino, haven't we? We have employed a manager who we know openly tells us that he likes a small, compact, tight-knit squad. And just before we appoint him, we inflate our squad to a ridiculous size. Now, another major issue for Pochettino at Chelsea will be quite how unbalanced our squad is. Nobody really seems to be talking about this, but our squad is actually all over the place. There is no semblance of any sort of harmony. You know, when you look at the Man City squad, for example, there's clear replacements. It's clear if X is injured, Y fills in. Whereas at Chelsea, we have an overload of players in particular positions, and then we're actually threadbare in other positions. So I flagged the holding midfielder there. If we do play this system, and Pochettino has employed this system at Tottenham, you know when it was Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Eric Dyer as a midfielder, Eric Dyer would drop in. At Chelsea, if he wants to replicate that system, you go for Fofana, Badiashile, who? That player at Chelsea doesn't really exist. Another example will be across the middle. So when he was at Tottenham, it sort of went Heung-min Son, Dele Alli, and Christian Eriksen. The Heung-min Son role at Chelsea, there are lots of people that can play over on the left. For example, we could have Raheem Sterling there. Mykhailo Mudryk is there. Callum Hudson-Odoi is there. Christian Pulisic potentially is there. On the right-hand side, very, very tricky. You know, you've got Hakim Ziyech, but he is going to leave. He tried to leave already. I think he's gutted that he's still a Chelsea player. So he will most certainly go. Who's over there? It's basically Noni Madueke. We have one traditional right-sided player. And if Pochettino decides to employ a very similar system to the one that he did at Tottenham, I think we're going to have to sign some more players. But he doesn't want to sign more players. He wants to shrink the squad. Pochettino has actually made the first big decision of his Chelsea tenure. He has decided that João Felix will not be signing for Chelsea on a permanent deal. He has turned down the opportunity to sign João Felix. Now, I'm totally in favour of this. I've seen a lot of people online seem to be fairly annoyed that we aren't signing a player of João Felix's quality, but I don't think we need him, and I haven't been particularly impressed with him, to be totally honest with you. So I'm on board so far, Poch. Getting rid of Felix, yep, happy enough. But we need more out the door. You know, Ruben Loftus-Cheek is apparently going to be heading over to AC Milan. He's going to be re-linking up with Fikayo Tomori, so there's a connection from Chelsea to AC Milan. Again, in the spirit of Ruud Gullit and Georgie Weah. So I may have to try and get out to Milan to see those boys playing. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek moving on, I think that is a good move for everyone involved. But that's not the half of it. In terms of the players that could end up leaving Chelsea, I don't really know where to start. I mean, obviously, Romelu Lukaku could end up leaving Chelsea. Mason Mount could end up leaving Chelsea. N'Golo Kante could end up leaving Chelsea. Aubameyang could end up leaving Chelsea. Kovacic, obviously. Pulisic, obviously. Ziyech, obviously. Chalobah, obviously. Mendy. Hudson-Odoi. What's his name in the middle? Who came from Juve? He'll go back. Denis Zakaria. Like, there is just so many options for Pochettino to get rid of. But equally, all the players I just said there, you wouldn't be that surprised to see a lot of them staying. So, my God, it is tough. But I'm going to put my cards on the table. I am trying to think like Pochettino thinks, view this Chelsea squad through the lens of Pochettino and try and concoct a first 11. So I think Chelsea will look like this under Pochettino, or at least something similar. I think Kepa Arrizabalaga will be in goal. I think he'll be desperate to try and sign a new goalkeeper. He's clearly not good enough, but it's so difficult. Arrizabalaga costs so much money. You know, it's looking like the Brentford keeper's going to be becoming available. I would love to try and get hold of him, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I imagine that Kepa Arrizabalaga will start for Pochettino. I think our back line will then go James, Fofana, Badiashile, Ben Chilwell. And I think Ben Chilwell and Reece James are going to be integral. They are going to be so important to everything that Mauricio Pochettino is going to want to do with this Chelsea team. The two holding midfielders. Now, this is tough, but I've gone for Mateo Kovacic and Enzo Fernandez. Sadly, I believe that there's a world where Mateo Kovacic could end up leaving Chelsea, but I think we need him. Unless we can operate a one-in, one-out policy, I think we're going to need him. So Kovacic, spraying the ball, keeping the play moving, and then I guess Enzo Fernandez will have to adopt a little bit more defensive responsibility than would be ideal. Now, looking at the front three, think about how he got Heung-min Son, Dele Alli and Christian Eriksen playing behind Harry Kane. I think at Chelsea, you could look to try and emulate that front four. You know, it worked wonders at Tottenham, so can they make it work at Chelsea? If you look at the number of goals that those four players scored, it is amazing. They were all hitting the back of the net constantly. And let's remember, this Chelsea team scored 38 goals all season. When Chelsea got relegated in 1988, we scored 8 more goals than the team that finished 12th. We literally couldn't score goals. Defensively, we were okay. I think we were the 5th best defence in the league. But we literally couldn't score goals. So this front four are going to have to get it right. And the 3 that play behind the centre forward, it really is going to have to land for Pochettino. And I've been thinking about this. And to be honest, I'm not confident at all. Here we go. Playing in the Christian Eriksen position, I've gone for Mason Mount. Now, I know I'm being optimistic here. I know that Mason Mount is probably going to leave. And it really does upset me that this is going to happen. But while he's still a Chelsea player, I'm putting him in my Chelsea team. I think that Mason Mount can do what Christian Eriksen did for Tottenham. I think he can drift inside. I think he can help the midfield in their defensive responsibilities, but he can also create. He has a great eye for a pass and he has a good finish on him. When Christian Eriksen was playing for Tottenham, all of those front four for Tottenham were scoring bundles of goals. I think Mason Mount could be integral and he could do for Chelsea what Eriksen did for Tottenham under Pochettino. Didn't really work for him at Chelsea last season. I was so disappointed by his output, but what you cannot argue with is the skill and track record of Raheem Sterling. If Mauricio Pochettino can get Raheem Sterling firing, that's his 20 goals guaranteed for Chelsea. It's basically half the goals we scored last season. So let's do it. Let's try him in a slightly different position. Let's bring him slightly more into the middle where he can be dangerous. Let's get him making those late runs into the box in the way that Dele Alli used to. And on the left wing, I've put Mykhailo Mudryk. I don't want to put Mykhailo Mudryk there, but he's 88 million quid. I don't like the bloke so far. I've seen nothing in him to suggest that he's an 88 million pound player. I don't like his conduct off the pitch. But they bought him and we got him, so I got no choice but to play him. And then up front, it's going to blow your mind. I've gone for Romelu Lukaku. I think that Pochettino coming in is going to go for a clean slate for every player. Now, while I don't like the way that Lukaku behaved when Thomas Tuchel was manager, while I am still furious about that unsanctioned interview with Sky Italia, Romelu Lukaku is the best forward at Chelsea. He's obviously a better option for Chelsea than Broja. He's obviously a better option for Chelsea than Datro Fofana. It's demonstrable how good he is. He's currently playing in a Champions League final and we are not even in the Champions League. In fact, we're not even in the Conference League. So obviously, Romelu Lukaku can do a job for Chelsea. If you want to talk to me about principle, should he have the option of playing for Chelsea? Should he still be given the privilege of leading the line for such a beautiful and historic club like Chelsea? After the way that he behaved, principle's gone, isn't it? Pochettino's manager. So there we have it. That's my team. I can't say that it fills me with massive amounts of confidence going into the new season. And I think Pochettino really does have his work cut out. In terms of what is success for Chelsea, I don't even know anymore. I don't think that we can win the league. I don't think we can challenge for the league. Therefore, top 4, top 5 as it is now. Is that success from Pochettino's perspective? Maybe top 5 and a trophy. I would certainly take that if it was offered to me now. I think we are going to be in this mess until the powers that be at Chelsea realise that simply spending money and buying footballers, even good footballers, isn't the answer. They need to take some responsibility for the shape of this squad. We've gone through the squad there. When you look at the squad, I think a 3-4-3 makes more sense, but Pochettino and the way that football is going, I think we need to play a 4-3-3. It's a mess, but hopefully Pochettino can get it right. He's magic, apparently. We're going to find out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do me a favour. Please give it a like. Please click subscribe. It would be my honour to welcome you into this community. Thank you so much for watching.